After 6 years of drawing webcomics, I found many small ways that altogether help to increase efficiency and streamline the webcomic process. Though, as I continue, I may find more in the future, so if I do, I'll create a second part to this video. All the following tips are what I found personally helpful, particularly on Medibang Paint Pro, so don't feel pressured to implement them if it doesn't suit your process. For filing, create a dedicated folder for each episode and label what each is about so it's easy to reference back to. In the folder, create two, one for the original files and the other for the exported image versions. In my case, I label them Medibang files and JPEG files. Keep all the original files of each page. So, for example, if you need to reference any unrendered base colors or see any details that don't show up on the image version, you can. Deleting them may be tempting, but your future self will thank you for keeping them. Backing up is also really important. I recommend saving the original and exported files every time you finish drawing for the time being, onto your device, USB or external drive in cloud. This is helpful especially if you accidentally delete, change something in a file incorrectly, etc., so you can go back to the version saved somewhere else. Make the canvas high quality by doubling or tripling the comic platform's dimension requirements while keeping the ratio so the blurriness wouldn't be so noticeable if you ever need to upscale the art. If you work on canvases that are longer than a single page, keep the width ratio but extend the length to however needed. For Webtoon, it automatically slices the pages so you don't have to worry about slicing it manually. Make a blank template for your pages. In the template, create separate folders, one for every panel and text. Keep this blank template to the side. If you're stuck on paneling, start with drawing the art first instead of making the panels. After making the panels, it's easier to see what kinds of framings would match what. If you're hesitant to start the line art, slightly blur the draft layer to remove the sense of attachment to it. For the line art, draw or make the background first, then the character, especially when the character is heavily interacting with the background. This way you can tell how the character interacts with it and what perspective to draw in, so you can avoid having to redraw the line art of the character if it doesn't match the background. Keep the background separate from the character, so you can reuse it or put special effects if needed. In the background, separate the small details from the main details into different layers, so it's easier to make changes if needed. If you feel overwhelmed by the line art, zoom in into sections of the panel, so you only tend to look at what you're working on. Though I know the general advice is to look at the whole image rather than hyper-focusing on small details, but this is just for the sake of if you're feeling overwhelmed. When you want to merge layers but are scared to mess up the process, duplicate the entire folder to keep all the original line art in case you need to go back to the unmerged version. Make folders for separate limbs or objects that have separate special effects so you don't have to select the layer manually as it could get tedious. Again, if you're afraid of messing up the merged version of the object, keep a copy of the original layer group and work on the duplicated merged version. To prevent the cutout look, you can leave a color block behind the object. This way it blends well with the rest of the body. Instead of fixing the line art for minuscule details, zoom out and look at the full image itself. Only fix errors that are noticeable and look jarring. Use reference apps like PureRef or use reference windows to display character sheets or references. You can also have color sets using the color palette window. On Medibang, there's a window to create color palettes and another for references. Take screenshots of flat colored scenes if you know you have to pick those specific colors again for that scene uniquely. It saves a lot of time going through and opening the layers one by one. Separate layers of flat colors so it's easier to do the shading without worrying about overlapping the wrong layer. For example, clothing on someone. Create a separate layer for the clothing and skin base color, then clip the rendering layer to the relevant base color. To mine small gaps in the line art, decrease fill strength. That way you don't have to patch up the line art each time to color. It will automatically patch up gaps. If there are any holes in the coloring, select the object or on the outside and inverse if there's too many details. Then make another color block layer beneath. You can apply this also to tedious detailed sections like hair with easy colored sections like skin. First, block out the skin, select the outside of the hair in inverse, and make a layer beneath the skin and any other layers and block it out. Keep the text and art separate, so it's easier to make changes. Turn off the text layer when doing the art, so you don't draw around it in case you need to move or adjust the text box. Make a separate folder for each speech bubble. And don't merge the text, speech line, and speech bubble in case you need to make changes later. For sea urchin style thought bubbles, create one in an image format you can import onto the canvas. Make sure it's of a reasonable quality, like 800 by 800 pixels, so it's not so pixelated if you stretch it out. This way you don't have to make them each time. For thumbnails, make a template with the thumbnail dimensions. Then either, if you're using Medibang, copy-paste the panel from another file directly onto the thumbnail file. Then select the transform tool. Or, you can export the file into an image, then import it onto the canvas. Select the transform tool and size it to the desired panel. If you're like me and don't include large buffers already in each page, create boxes to place in between. Keep in mind this could become a problem as your file numbers may reach the maximum 100 on Webtoon. Alright, that's all I have for now. Feel free to give a like if you found this video helpful or comment below if I missed anything, and subscribe to keep updated with my videos. Thanks for watching.